The Politics podcast brought to you as always by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. If you want a bonus podcast on Monday, you want a bonus podcast on Friday, you want an exclusive RSS feed that you never have to log into, you just enter into the podcatcher of your choice once, a process so simple you can do it on your phone right now. Where you need to go is TakePoliticsSeriously.com. Also, you want a shirt? You want to represent this very podcast any and everywhere you go? Head on over to stickers or DIAF.com. Get your shirts as well. And meanwhile, you can get our new shirt, the less bullshit, more horseshit shirt, representing the very ethos of this program. It's just so simple, folks. Head on over to stickers or DIAF. But enough of talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Politics, yes. Come on, come on, come on.
Hi, everybody. Ho, welcome. If there's one thing that you know about me on this very show, you know that I am an enemy of cynicism. I don't like cynicism. I think cynicism is oftentimes a useless ploy. Some people call me a cynic. They call me a cynic because I don't expect much of politicians. They call me a cynic because I oftentimes am unsurprised when people act selfish, when people act self-involved, when people try to take shortcuts. But I don't believe that that is cynicism. I think that that is just a healthy realism, an understanding of what kind of process that we are watching unfold. What I don't like is what I like to call punch-out cynicism. Punch-out cynicism. The idea that you can totally dismiss another side's argument because, of course, our side is right and their side is wrong by way of one hand-wavy comment. And so there was a little bit of a, meme might be a bad word because I don't think it was self-stylized in what we would understand as a meme, in that, although I'm sure it was for some people, I'm sure there was a distracted girlfriend or distracted boyfriend meme of old girlfriend walking away, the caravan, distracted boyfriend, the GOP electorate, and, new girl walking toward the camera as, I don't know, the Mueller investigation or the GM closures or whatever. But there was this idea after Election Day that the caravan, which is, of course, just really another example of how we can discuss the immigration, issues of our country. Something that is not new, will happen for a very long time because, by and large, we have a broken immigration system. And shockingly enough, we all agree that it is broken, yet we're too busy pointing at each other and laughing to really do anything about it. But there was this idea, and I saw friends of mine tweet about it. Oh, Election day's over. I guess we're not going to hear about the caravan anymore. Hey, I'm flipping channels. Don't see a lot of caravan talk now that Election day is over. And certainly, I am not one to tell you that the caravan did not heighten the importance of that particular news story. Anytime that you have an election day looming, that you have a winner-take-all contest, or in this case, a gigantic beehive of winner-take-all contests that then added up to a meta winner-take-all contest, then of course, each and every little thing that is discussed will be dissected in minute detail, and we will yell about it louder than we would otherwise. But as we are seeing now, it wasn't just a totally invented process, as we are facing yet another immigration crisis on our southern border. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, has been at the forefront of the immigration process over the last few years through his campaign up till now. I don't know if you've noticed. But over the weekend, we shut down one of the busiest entry ports into the United States. It is between Tijuana and San Diego. This is because the caravan that has made its way to our southern border is now trying to enter into the United States, either to seek asylum or to not. So all I want to do is just revisit just that idea of, oh, we only talked about the caravan because of the election. It wasn't just because of the election. Immigration issues are going to be with us until we do something about it. And by the way, I don't think we're very close to doing something about it. Because even if we were to build a wall, I don't think that solves the problem that we have. We have a baseline problem in this country about how we handle entry, how we handle citizen making, how we handle benefits, how we handle the fact that we've had a broken system. In many ways, we in America look at our immigration system the same way that an alcoholic looks at getting sober. It's not necessarily that you don't understand that there's a problem. It's when you look at the fact that you didn't do anything about it yesterday, and you didn't do anything about it the week before, and you didn't do anything about it the year before, and you didn't do anything about it the decade before, and you didn't do anything the decade before that. Well, Jesus, we're this far down the spiral. How will we ever get back up? But this show today isn't about that. This show today is about something that I very rarely do on this show. And we're going to get to everything. We're going to get to the end game on the Mueller investigation. We're going to get into Nancy Pelosi dividing and conquering her enemies in the insurgent left-wing element of the Democratic House of Representatives. Her likely successful quest to become the Speaker of the House. Of course, we're going to have a pole dance. We're going to have your emails. But I'm going to do something that I very rarely do, and longtime listeners and viewers to this program will know this. I am merciless. Merciless, my friends, when it comes to television news. I don't like it. Well, no, let me take that back. Not that I don't like it. I like it fine. I just don't think that it's to be taken very seriously. And I say so over and over and over again. I know that you guys are bored of me talking about it, so I won't go so on and on about it. However, I'm going to do something that I very rarely do. Mark your calendars. What do we have here? November 28th, 2018. Please mark it down. I'm going to say something nice about television news. And wait, it gets more amazing. It gets more rare. I'm going to say something nice about two 24-hour cable news channels. I'm going to say something nice about Fox News. I'm going to say something nice about MSNBC. Yes, I'm going to say it. While I also bitch about people on Twitter. So, There's no. I am gonna bitch about something. I'm gonna bitch about people on Twitter. But I'm gonna say something in the process. I'm going to say something nice about Fox News, and I'm gonna say something nice about MSNBC. 2 clips went viral over the last couple days, and one was from Fox News, one was from MSNBC. And in my daily traipses around the internet, I try to go to different places that have different points of view just so I can take the pulse of the body politic here online. I found a very strange reaction to these clips. Because in both examples, here's the compliment. These were against the grain examples of these networks that by and large are very narrative driven, providing context, providing a different voice, not as a punching bag, not as something to be mocked or made fun of or shouted over, but rather to be understood, presented just as it is. So an average viewer can watch it and say, oh, okay. Now, normally they don't do this. They're not good at this. They don't like this. The reason why is because, if you feel like you've educated yourself on something, then you tend to not watch. You're like, oh, cool. Got it. Now I'm going to watch, I don't know, that show where all the people start singing with masks on. I'm going to do that instead. And then the cable news network can't have the same audience to sell soap. So they're like, fuck. All right, we got to make sure that everybody. So it's Rachel Maddow. I'm going to now let me explain to you why these 15 Russian oligarchs, who I'm now going to pronounce all of their names just so I can spread this segment out a little bit more, all have very different and telling records of where they have parked their yachts and how it connects directly to a shell company that is held by Jared Kushner that was signed over to a mysterious person that I will reveal after the break. Do you have dry hands? Would you like to buy some fucking soap? That's normally what it is. Context is the enemy. And yet here is context. I'm going to play these 2 clips. Here is Geraldo Rivera on Fox News discussing the caravan.
Honest what the media is doing or dishonest?
I refuse to deal with this as a media issue because it's far too important. With all due respect, Jesse, this is something that goes to the very quick. This goes to my soul.
Right. But that's how the audience is consuming
fulfilling my role as the designated piñata on Fox News. I want to say
that's racist.
I am ashamed. This tear gas choked me. We treat these people, these economic refugees, as if they're zombies from The Walking Dead. I think we arrested 42 people. 8 of them were women with children. We have to deal with this problem humanely and with compassion. These are not invaders. Stop using these military analogies. This is absolutely painful to watch. We are a nation of immigrants. These are desperate people. They walk 2,000 miles. Why? Because they want to rape your daughter or steal your lunch? No. Because they want a job. They want to fill the millions of unfilled jobs we have in the agricultural sector. They want to wash dishes in the restaurants. They want to deliver the pizzas. For goodness sake, I can't. We suspend our humanity when it comes to this issue, and I fear that it is because they look different than the.
Geraldo, can I
Now, I'm not one to say that Geraldo Rivera is the end-all be-all about political discourse, nor do I necessarily think that this is a well-reasoned point of view. I think it's a very emotional point of view. I can understand where he's coming from. But the biggest thing that I saw with this, the biggest reaction I saw to this was, oh my God, look at how embarrassing it is for Fox News to have their narrative hijacked. This was an almost identical reaction that I had seen a few days prior on the right to a clip on MSNBC. This clip of a reporter who was live from the scene of the migrant caravan talking to the hosts. Let's listen to that.
A work permit and then be allowed to go to the United States.
Okay,
Guys,
Gabi,
back to you.
just stay on this for a moment, because some people look at these images and they listen to the president who says it's not women and children, it's stone cold criminals. So my first question is, you're in that tent camp. Besides that family, give us the profile of who is there mostly and what are they looking for? Because it seems as though, to your point, they don't actually have the necessary information so they know how to cross the border. There could be people yesterday who were running because they thought it was their only chance.
Right. And it's very difficult because this has become such a polarizing issue. If we kind of take a walk, you'll be able to see for yourself. Again, this is the inner sanctum of the shelter. So you're going to see a lot of families here, a lot of women and children. But the truth is the majority of the people that are part of this caravan, especially outside, if we can make our way all the way over there, we'll show you the majority of them are men. So when this becomes a polarized political issue in the United States, you have people on one side that point and say, there are women and children here, and that is true. And then there are others who point and say these are men that are trying to cross the border, and that's true too. From what we've seen, the majority are actually men, and some of these men have not articulated that need for asylum. Instead, they have talked about, going to the United States for a better life and to find work. But if we
Now, this got tremendous play on the right. This is Gadi Schwartz, who is reporting live on a live camera. If you're only listening to this, then the images are a very well buttoned up MSNBC reporter with a microphone and a camera and some horn rim glasses walking around this migrant tent camp in Tijuana, Mexico. The reaction from the right was, oh my God, how embarrassing. How embarrassing it must have been for MSNBC to have their narrative shattered. Oh, the host must have been so embarrassed to have one of their own put egg on their face. Hashtag triggered. Hashtag red pill. Hashtag cuck SMBC. I don't know. I think this was good context. This is the first time that I've watched a clip that's gone viral from both of these networks and said, oh, that's good. That seems like a good context to both. I don't know. It seems as if, in our own weird way, the two sides of our political discourse are trying to reach out to each other. They just don't want to admit it. They just don't want to. They don't want to tell each other. They don't want to dare show vulnerability that, oh, I think it's interesting that the other side has these thoughts. I dare believe that the other side has a shred of humanity in it. I dare believe that these networks that are built to cater to our worst fears might also, by accident, every once in a while, have a shred of context there that could make the world a more informed place and not necessarily just a battle hem for one side or the other. It was strangely heartening to me, friends. It was strangely hopeful for me to look at these things circulating on within 48 hours of each other and say, you want to know what? Yeah, the way we're handling it is kind of gross. And yes, everybody on one side or the other is doing the thing that I just, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day and I said, if there was an animal that were to describe our current political discourse, it would be the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit that laugh so hard they kill themselves. Because that's what we are. On one side or the other, we're like, Fox News fucked up, ha, dunking on them. On the other side, it's, MSNBC, BTFO, fuck you. But yet we're kind of saying on both sides, oh, wow, look at that context. Huh. Because, by the way, that's what matters. Pin King 554 says, I disagree with Geraldo on the point that tear gas should not have been used. When you have rocks being thrown at you, the officer should have the right to defend them. The tear gas was a less lethal way to stop the throwing of rocks and tearing down the border that was already there. Sure. Yeah. That's fine. I'm not saying Geraldo's right. I'm saying Geraldo's providing context. And there's a reason why that clip went viral. We have these understandings in our head, and when they are gone, when they are changed, when they're altered, when there's a break in the pattern, again, we are humans. We are pattern-recognizing creatures. When there's a change in the pattern, we notice it. We say, look, they normally do one thing, and now they're doing another thing. Interesting. Share. I hope I get all the likes. I want to take this time right now to remind everybody that I write a free political newsletter 5 days a week. That is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 5 days a week, 5 stories a day, mostly gifts, sometimes hot takes. You can subscribe to it for free at freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Again, freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Just that simple. I write it for free out of the kindness of my own heart for you. I believe we're in the end game on Robert Mueller. And I'm not alone. We've been doing a lot of Kremlinology. How many people know what I'm talking about here live in the chat room? How many people know what I'm talking about when I say Kremlinology? It's one of my favorite phrases. But Kremlinology, do you know what I am talking about? Yes or no here in our chat room. Of course, we are streaming live on Twitch, twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. New time. We are now no longer streaming in the morning Pacific time at 11 a.m. in the morning. We are now streaming in the afternoon and night on the East Coast. It is now 7:30 as I record this live. So now if you have never gotten a chance to see what the show is live, when you get out from work, if you're on the East Coast, you can tune on in. Twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. The results are in. It's about 50-50, half and half on whether or not they know what Kremlinology is. Kremlinology is this. It was from the Cold War. That from the United States' perspective, the only way that we really knew what was going on inside the Politburo was to examine every little detail of the publicly facing elements of the Kremlin. And specifically the idea that where people's portraits were hung. And so now if somebody's portrait got moved further away from the center, that they were fading in power. If they got moved closer, that meant that they were getting more powerful. And so it became a kind of obsessive study for some. And so we do this with other things that are kind of unknowable. Right now, the biggest is the special investigation being conducted by Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller has been at this for over a year. And it seems as if we are getting close to the end. Axios ticks off the signs like this. Mueller is tightening the screws on Jerome Corsi, a friend of former Trump advisor Roger Stone. Ecuador may be moving to turn over WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Russian spy and NRA superfan Maria Butina is reportedly in talks for a plea deal of her own. A number of Mueller's prosecutors were hard at work on Veterans Day when Michael Cohen took the train to Washington to meet with the Mueller team. ABC News reported an unusually high number, nearly 36, in fact, of sealed indictments filed over the course of the year in D.C. 14 of those have been added since August, a period when Mueller's investigation was publicly quiet. And this. Donald Trump has reportedly now turned in his long-awaited written answers to Mueller. And we got a hint, or at least a report, on 2 answers to very, very, very pivotal questions to that today. According to CNN, as reported by Dana Bash, Kara Scannell, and Evan Perez. Jim Acosta. Interesting, he said facetiously. President Donald Trump has told special counsel Robert Mueller in writing that Roger Stone did not tell him about the WikiLeaks dumps, nor was he told about the 2016 Trump Tower meeting between his son, campaign officials, and a Russian lawyer promising dirt on Hillary Clinton, according to 2 sources familiar with the matter. One source described the president's answers without providing any direct quotes and said the president made clear that he was answering to the best of his recollection. These are all important because now, remember, Bill Clinton didn't get tripped up in that special investigation by Ken Starr until he put his voice to lies. When he lied to the special investigator, he got caught and he was punished. They came for him. If Donald Trump has put his name on something, not on Twitter, it's not illegal to lie to the press, even if he's lying out of his ass. But it's illegal to lie to a special prosecutor. If these things are proven to be lies, that's an issue. Now, this dovetails with another big story that broke this week, and that is that according to The Guardian, Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London. So here's the question. As all of you guys know from being good, studied listeners and viewers to the Politics program, who benefits from that story? Where did it come from? If that embassy was as leaky as you would think for that story to come out, it probably would have provided some very worthwhile news before now. WikiLeaks and Paul Manafort deny this heartily. They indeed call the author of that Guardian piece a serial fabricator, or at least WikiLeaks does. But if we are to Kremlinology this scene, we would say that it looks like Mueller is tightening his focus to collusion, which is weird because I always figured that collusion where one side, Russia, will never be a cooperating witness is always going to be very, 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 very hard to prove. Specifically when you're dealing with an organization that was as ramshackle and slapdash as the Trump campaign was in 2016. Here's a big problem with that Manafort story as it was written in The Guardian. According to that piece, sources say that the last meeting between Manafort and Julian Assange was in March 2016. March of 2016 was when the party was a-rolling for the Trump campaign. That's Super Tuesday. That's Marco Rubio dropping out. That's Jeb Bush dropping out. That's the entire field being cleared and Donald Trump becoming the clear-cut favorite. Manafort does not come on until June, and the reason why Manafort comes on is not necessarily, at least by all available indicators, for any other reason other than he understands how delegates work. President, now president, then candidate Trump was getting outfoxed by Ted Cruz in terms of the actual way, the arcane way that we actually assign delegates for the convention. Sure, you can win the primary, but then there's a thing and there's a mandate and bleep, blop, bloop, right? That's why Manafort came on. That and Corey Lewandowski seems fairly incompetent. I know I say this a lot. In fact, it's almost like a Pavlovian response whenever Corey Lewandowski's name is brought up, but he is a man that could not squash a beef with a Breitbart reporter. If you are a conservative and you are running a campaign for president where you are being lauded daily as if you are the newborn son of Christ by Breitbart, and you can't squash a beef with a reporter from said outlet, you might be in line to be fucking fired. And lo, he was. Paul Manafort comes on and he's fired fairly quickly. Pretty shortly after the convention, he is replaced by Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway. In fact, there are reports on the record of Donald Trump saying, I think Paul Manafort's a fucking crook. So, in between then, did Paul Manafort communicate to the president? Another fun thing about Manafort. Another reason why both him and Kellyanne Conway were brought onto the campaign was because they lived in Trump Tower. There's an amazing Dave Chappelle bit about the Monica Lewinsky situation where you know that Bill Clinton is a powerful man because he only fucks people close to him. He's not here to be picky and choosy and go out for his dalliances. No. And as you should all watch the Dave Chappelle Killing Them Softly special. But to paraphrase his bit, it's, you, come here. Donald Trump is a powerful man. Why? Because he literally only hired people that were within an elevator ride of where he was spending the majority of the time that he had in his own inner sanctum. Paul Manafort, Kellyanne Conway lived in Trump Tower. That, presumably, is why they were hired. Unless, of course, Paul Manafort, on some level, was an emissary from Russia. He was convinced, there was an agreement between the Trump administration. That's the only way that the timeline makes sense for me. Is if, well, the other thing is I'm not clear right now in my head as I talk to you exactly when the spearfishing attempt was on the DNC. I don't know that. If somebody can actually find that for me in the chat, that would be amazing. But I don't know when the DNC forensics say there was the spearfishing attempt happened to Paul Manafort, not Paul Manafort. John Podesta. That then gave access for Fancy Bear and Cozy Bear, as they are codenamed by the Russian government, to download all those DNC emails. But let's say, for example, that did happen before March. And Paul Manafort knew very well that there were going to be explicitly what was in those emails, what was going to be displayed, and when it was going to be dropped. Well, if that was the case, then why the fuck did he meet with that lady who offered dirt on Hillary Clinton? And if that were the case, I don't know. I kind of feel like you would have had more coordinated action with Donald Trump about this stuff. I mean, we see how President Trump reacts to any little bit of news that he gets now, right? Like, you don't think that Donald Trump would be making risotto jokes weeks before? I don't know. We will see. So, Drench Wildfire says Russian hackers sent John Podesta the Spearfish email on March 19th, 2016. So that would be halfway through the month that The Guardian is alleging that Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange. I mean, again, we are going to see in this Mueller report, it's going to be voluminous. Okay, real quick. I went too long on all that, so we're gonna have to kind of rapid fire through this. Number one, it's no secret. I'm working on another podcast. It's gonna not be like this. It's not gonna be about current events. It's going to be about one of my favorite things in all of history, and that is the 1960 election between President John F. Kennedy, then Senator John F. Kennedy, and Vice President Richard Milhous Nixon. I'm writing it now. Be recording it soon, and hopefully you guys will have it sooner rather than later. However, as I'm doing this, I continue to research, as I want to get the fullest possible picture to display to you guys. And in that process, I have hit a moment that I am scared about, and I will express this to you. This podcast is going to focus very specifically on the 1960 election and the conspiracy that the Kennedy family, by way of Frank Sinatra, employed the mob, the Chicago mob, as run by Sam Momo Giancana, to commit voter fraud in the state of Illinois, sealing the election for JFK. I have deliberately stayed away from the Kennedy assassination for this reason. I don't know a lot about it, and I wanted this story to be itself. I already feel that the 1960 election is kind of overshadowed by the events of Watergate and the assassination, as well as all the other stuff that happened during John F. Kennedy's reign, not to mention all the other supporting players, LBJ, RFK, and many more. But also, I'm not somebody that was affected by it. I was born in the early 80s. But this book that I'm reading, it's called The Kennedy Half Century. It is on Audible. I'm only going to listen to the parts that, affect my area of research. But the book opens with a moment-by-moment retelling of that fateful day in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963. And specifically, what happened afterward. The mood of the nation. How many things were canceled. How many things were affected. How the world went about its day. It crystallized something for me. One of my central theses in this podcast is that the 1960 election is the most important political lesson that we kind of refuse to learn. The reason why, because the two principals have other more important stories that they were a part of. And specifically the idea that JFK, the day that he died, became more than a man. He became a myth. And protecting that myth, honoring that myth became very important. He was a lesson. He was a memorial. He was a god. And so we don't like to look at 1960, not because of the conspiracy, which we're going to get into in that show, but because JFK is a human. And not even just the he fucked around. Although 1960 is the same year that him and Sam Giancana were sharing the same mistress. But because he was an ambitious senator from an ambitious family who utilized every single one of their advantages to take the White House. And it's hard to reconcile that with the fact that he's also liberal Jesus. The fact that he's also the doomed reincarnation of Abraham Lincoln. I think old people are going to be pissed at me is what I'm trying to say. And it kind of scared me for the first time in working on this show. Because I'm not going to coddle the Kennedys. I'm not going to be mean to them unnecessarily. I'm just going to, having reviewed all available texts on the matter, I'm going to tell the tale. But man, it's hard to criticize a god without people getting real fired up about it. Real quick, I want to hit on this. Nancy Pelosi has divided and conquered. We heard a lot about Nancy Pelosi facing a possible rebellion by the liberal wing of the House of Representatives. That has not indeed come to pass. She was nominated by her own party. She seems likely to become the Speaker of the House now that it has flipped, or will, rather, at the end of the year. Nancy Pelosi is vicious. Nancy Pelosi is a gangster when it comes to this shit. She has done every element. She has played this game perfect. If you are only looking at maneuvering, if you are only looking at horse trading, if you are only looking at the cold, calculating, Undertaker eyes roll into the back of her head, political machinations of D.C., there are a few better. She made sure to have all of her subordinates be old as fuck. She made sure to cuddle up to the one person, the one buzzy representative that came in and had nothing but media attention. Did you notice that? Notice that Nancy Pelosi made sure to tweet right at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Oh, you want to know what? I think we should create an exploratory committee on a Green New Deal. Now, who's your speaker? Good girl. Go grab a butterscotch. She's good. She's good at this. And whatever rebellion was there, it was just the gang that couldn't shoot straight the entire time. They flashed to the media that, we got the votes to block. We got the votes to block. Oh, I wonder if Martha Fudge is going to... Oh, no, she's not. Because you want to know what? If you come at the queen, you best not miss. But what is all this for? At the end of the day, this is still Congress, right? What does that mean to the American people? And more so, what do the American people think of its governing body? Well, friends, there is one way to find out, and that's to ask the American people. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the only way that we process data science right here on the Politics show. I want to welcome you all because this is a congressional approval
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance.
That booty.
This is an economist, I always say that, an Economist YouGov poll taken from November 25th to November 27th with a sample of 1,293 registered voters. Coming up first to the stage with a paltry 14%. Please give a big round of applause to approve. But your headliner, with a dominant 68%. Let's give a big round of applause for Disapprove. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is 68% for Disapprove, 14% for Approve, a 54-point spread. You know, speaking of pole dances, there appears to be a rift between Stormy Daniels and Michael Avenatti. This was breaking literally right before we came here on the air. Some spats back and forth in public about Michael Avenatti launching another crowdfunding campaign to support Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels saying she does not know where that money is going. Michael Avenatti saying, Stormy, as we all know, you're the best. I support you. I believe you. But we have an agreement. You only paid me $100 to retain me. All that money was set to go to me. Now, I very generously deferred a lot of that money for you and your security, but I launched another crowdfunding campaign because I wanted to re-energize the coffers, which is lawyer speak for that money is fucking gone. In general, rule of thumb, ladies and germs, if you gotta ask where the money is, the answer's probably gone. All right, let's go ahead and get into but your emails. You can go ahead and email this show at theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Sean writes, can we please get a Dead Kennedys tribute and history lesson on Jerry Brown? I still can't believe that song is accurate today. A big salute to the legend, Moonbeam Jerry Graham, the outgoing mayor of my state, California. Not only a man who has been in politics for so long that a young Jello Biafra wrote one of the Dead Kennedys' best songs ever, California Uber Alice, a song that totally predicted the idea of smug liberalism becoming a fascist state. One that says, paints the picture of a world in which Jerry Brown, then the governor of California, would become the president of the United States. And all we really need is in this very crowded field, this very crowded Democratic field, for old Moonbeam to throw his hat in the ring, and Jello might yet be right. But your homework assignment, go listen to California Uber Alice. Ken writes, for some reason, I've watched this set. Oh, this is about Rich Little. We got a lot of feedback on Rich Little. I played the Rich Little White House Correspondents' Dinner routine throughout the last episode of this show. We got some reactions. Ken writes, I've been watching this set. I've watched this set twice in its entirety since you shared it in the newsletter. I remember seeing Rich Little everywhere as a kid in the 80s and figured he was just a boring grown-up, stuff like church and the People's Court. I figured if you can passably do one jowly white guy, you can do them all. How lit would it be if in the middle of his Andy Rooney and Lyndon Johnson, he whipped out an airtight Big Sean or Logan Paul or some dank meme from 5 minutes ago? Suddenly, we'd all think he was a Kaufman-esque genius. How would you advise Rich Little's career? Like if he wrote into After Things or something. I mean, really, the way, number one, the way that Rich Little would have to work is just go dirty, right? Do the Betty White. Rich Little could do his same act and just drop in some motherfuckers and cocksuckers, and all of a sudden he would be the littest shit on Twitter. People would love him. People would be like, oh my God. I don't know. Some of his references are so fucking mothballed. But then again, this is coming from the guy who's doing a fucking podcast about the 1960 election, so fuck me, right? Randy from Oklahoma writes, Dearest Justin, please no more Rich Little. I miss the pauses. All right. Heard and respected. Rishi B from Ann Arbor writes in, I just had lunch at a barbecue place called Mission Barbecue where, as my friends and I found out after we got there, every day at 12 p.m. they play the national anthem and ask for everybody to stand. This kind of thing shouldn't have been a surprise as the walls are decked out in non-location specific police, military, and firefighter paraphernalia, and there's a huge American flag that hangs from the center of the restaurant. However, it just felt so pandering to the people who enjoy the president making out with the flag. Am I being such a triggered libtard cuckwad 9000 that I can't stand for the anthem? Or is there a point where nationalism crosses into the line of commercialism? I appreciate your thoughts. Well, look, I mean, it's the American flag, so I don't know whether or not they did it when Obama was president, but I don't think that you can necessarily, unless I don't know when Mission Barbecue opened in Ann Arbor, but maybe they're just military people or something, and they, this is their shit. It certainly crosses into commercialism, but hell, so does the anthem at NFL games. So does the anthem at other sporting events. So does the anthem at other places where you have to pay to enter. I don't know. I wouldn't get too worked up about it. It's the anthem. It's fine. You should kneel. See what happens. Xmodem on YouTube wrote, of course, you can always also reply to this show by leaving a comment right here on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Justin Robert Young. Just find the video. If you watch the video, if you're watching me on YouTube right now, you got something that you want to say to me, say it to my face. Write it down there in the comment section. Xmodem wrote, I need your professional opinion. Was Rich Little ever actually funny, or at least good at impressions back in the day? Did I just think he was funny because I was a kid and I didn't know any better? Because of the recording, he sounds like he's doing the dullest impression of Dennis Miller having a dry conversation with Jimmy Stewart. I think I'm having an existential crisis because of it. I swear I remember him being funny. I mean, impressions are impressions. A lot of times impressions are funny because we are appreciating the artistry of the impression. At least the ones that strive for accuracy. My favorite impressionists tend to not be very accurate. They just tend to be funny caricatures. They're kind of performance art of a political cartoon. Like, for example, Dana Carvey's George H.W. Bush, which might be, for my money, the greatest political impression of all time, doesn't really sound like George H.W. Bush. He just kind of sounds like a George H.W. Bush that you would think in your head. You know, the not gonna die, wouldn't be proud. Like, the real George H.W. Bush didn't, like, slowly drawl off with every word, you know? But it was great. So maybe Rich Little was just good. I mean, also, remember that now we're at a moment where anybody who's half good at an impression can put it up on YouTube. Back then, if you were the guy who did impressions, there wasn't a lot of room for more than one of them. Barack Smith on YouTube writes, I lean left, but Colbert was not funny at all at W's Correspondents' Dinner. If you're a comedian doing a gig, then be funny, not self-righteous. Mitt Romney, John McCain, and Barack Obama were all funny and good-natured about their ribbing. The Correspondents' Dinner raises a lot of money for charity. It's not supposed to be a political rally. Trump has no sense of humor because he's a narcissistic, obtuse psychopath. Well, that's one way to put it. If you would like to email into this show, then go ahead and send me one. theyoungamerican@gmail.com. A reminder, we've got some hot deals for The Contender, our political card game. Head on over to thecontender.us. You can also, I already said that. Email theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Again, that is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. You can download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. And, of course, you can join our Discord. You like talking about politics? You want to talk about politics with cool people? Then come on in. Water's fine. bit.ly/jury discord. That is Discord, DISCORD. JURYDISCORD. Folks, that wraps us up for today. A reminder, some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, and I was on one today that talked about politics. But, this is the only one that talks about all three. See y'all next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.